have Sean Rooney from Oxfordshire Council. We have Mike Hansford from Dorset County Council. And we have Neil from Blackpool Council. Each one of these local authorities is using a different form of technology. Please take a seat. Yeah. And again, we're really conscious that a number of local authorities in the room have different sorts of suppliers. And I think from Laura's perspective, we're really keen to show that actually the great work that Laura's team are doing, that Alex is trying to do, is bring together the fact that so many local authorities are using different technologies. So in a very, very quick sort of perspective, in terms of road condition and how you've been working so far, Neil, how have you been using the sort of the technology that you use?
Hello? Okay. We use Blackpool use GAST to survey the network. We find that is generally representative of what we see out there. We tend to use it and almost look at the information, just focusing on those 4s and 5s, or the amber if we're looking at preventative measures. And as I say, in terms of if the engineers go out on site and then check the network, it kind of sort of does what it says on the tin.
Great, thank you. And Mike, I know you're using a different form of technology down in Dorset, aren't you?
Yes, so that's correct. We're using the Visala Road AI. And we've got these devices mounted in the cabs of our inspection vehicles. So we're trying to capture as much of the network in a single year. And obviously that we can use these devices across all of our network. I think some of the limitations we were finding with Scanner was that our rural networks in the middle of nowhere, it wasn't sort of picking up the right defects kind of thing. At the end of the day, Scanner was built for high-speed roads, so I still think it's got its place on parts of our network. We're not just using it for road condition, we're looking for particular types of defect for planned patching, for example. We're using it to validate our sign inventory. We've used it for like our road markings I talked about in my presentation, just to validate some of the stuff with that. We're using it now where we're putting these devices on our bikes and doing cycleways or footways. So we're looking at our inspectors having body-mounted capability so they can capture the data. At the moment that's limited to bituminous footways, but that's always sort of moving on. So we're using it for a number of different things, and I think we've made really big steps in improving our sort of asset inventory and attributes using this technology, as well as just general maintenance. I think some of the schemes that we're getting are better, and that's come from like our design engineers. And I think we're sort of starting to get a bit of a handle on our network now, get a much better understanding of it.
Brilliant. I'm not going to ignore you, Sean, but Wayne, let us know what you're doing in Doncaster and who you're using.
Well, we use ZACE, the AEIs, which we find very good at not only prioritising and measuring the condition of the network, but also prioritising what we do with schemes. So it's recommending treatments. We can put in our costs, what's actually happening this year, and build a scheme list from that for a known value. We've all got not enough money, and it allows us to target that worst of every single type. So we know we've got an allocation for surface dressing, and we know how far down the list we can get that. Same with schemes, and everything builds up from that. Including last year we got extra funding from the Mayor, specifically for local estate roads, and it allowed us to look at those categories of road and select appropriate treatments and spend that money with the consultation of the elected members, but spend that in the right place in an asset term as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And Sean, you're using Scanner in Oxfordshire.
Yeah, we're fairly traditional in using Scanner. It's a fairly well-established network. I think everyone that's left in the room will appreciate that it has its limitations. But I think utilising that and supported by, still the CVI type surveys on the unclassified network as well. But it's just part, you're talking about how developing a program. It's one of the tools that we also use different metrics in terms of scrim, in terms of defect numbers and everything else like that. But in terms of, the waiting for the next step, we are open to doing things differently. We're just not quite sure which way we're going to fall just yet. So, we've been waiting for a long time. Laura and I have been chatting for a while. And it's for once, we're still quite traditional.
And Alex, just I guess reassure the audience and local authorities. There is these number of different technologies. Do you think the authorities will see major change once the sort of the PAS standard comes out, or will they be able to continue with what they're doing?
That's a good question, actually. The proposal is they shouldn't see major change, in that authorities that are using Scanner and are happy with it should be able to continue using Scanner and do what they want with it whilst using it for national reporting, and local authorities that would rather do it a different way can do. So it shouldn't cause change. It's interesting about areas that we haven't really considered or addressed yet, which might be about hybrid use, and if I want to use Scanner here and then I want to use Vaisala there and I want to use Geist over there. That could be interesting in terms of how we define a requirement, but if we want a flexible system, then it has to be able to accommodate that.
And I think it's probably really important to say, if people aren't already aware, is how much Laura, right from the very first time I met you a couple of years ago, feels like even longer, you've been absolutely adamant about taking all the local authorities and listening to the different approaches they've been making. We've had the questions sort of out today. Alex, I know you've spent a huge amount of time working with local authorities, and I think I think there were some people who were expecting something quicker, but actually I've been one of the people that have felt, I think it's better that you guys have been taking longer, because as we've heard, each local authority here is doing something sort of different, and we don't want to lose that sort of technology piece. Anything you want to add to that, Laura? Just sit here.
I'll just come here because I'll run off immediately afterwards. But yeah, I think that the reality of it is we wanted to take our time to ensure that we had all of the information that we needed to make something that would be useful and work straight away. We didn't want to rush something and then end up with something that doesn't actually really help and just sort of confuses the situation more. We want to make sure that what we're doing is actually going to have a positive change. And yeah, I think, as Paula said, we want as much sort of feedback and participation from the sort of community. So I am always happy to get feedback from local authorities and also companies in the private sector that this will impact, because at the end of the day, we're trying to make this better for you. So yeah, and I'm going to run off now for a train.
And actually, one of the reasons we're recording. Thank you, Laura. One of the reasons we're recording this session, we knew that there would be people sort of leaving for their train, but actually, we wanted to make sure that we would be able to disseminate this after the event, share some of the things that have been discussed. I'm going to pose you one more question, Alex. I know from every local authority I've spoken to here, they use much of their road condition around asset management. And do you think there's a fear that some people might have to ditch some of their asset management sort of ways they're using their existing suppliers to fit with RCI? Or do you see that actually they should still be able to absolutely complete the two?
Right, official line. No, I honestly believe that the spirit behind this and the whole basis of it is that you should be able to fully achieve your asset management goals, and then off the back of it, deliver your road condition data for national reporting. The PAS will include some commentary about asset management, but the PAS is about national reporting. So I think what people might want to bear in mind is that we currently have a scanner specification, which was responsible for the most of it, writing most of it. It's huge, it's hundreds of pages. The pass is actually about less detail, more openness. There's just a requirement for national reporting, and you will procure the data that you need for asset management. We need to make sure we don't somehow create a pass which makes that hard to do both with, and that's actually the challenge, and that's actually one of the reasons why there's been the delays and the need for the network study, because it was about let's produce a PAS that will actually be deliverable, and let's think about the asset management side.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And I think the other thing is that it's also really important to say we don't want to go into sort of recreating sort of the first sort of round of a sort of a rigid sort of process. So just from our panel members, raise your hand. Is there anything that you've heard from today and how things have been working that with Alex as a captive audience here, you've sort of been pleased to hear about from how the process is going, given that you're all using different technologies? Neil, I'm going to pick on you.
Am I on again? Right, okay. Yeah, I found it encouraging that broadly speaking, that the systems were matching up, but obviously there's some more work to be done. But I think that's almost where we want to get to. I think that's the intent of this, that all the survey results should be within that sort of bandwidth, and if there's some commonality in that, it doesn't matter what system you use.
Yeah.
And that's good as a local authority to have the choice.
Yeah, brilliant. Sean?
Yeah, the pleasing thing for me is the fact that we know that there's mainly it's matching up, but the fact that we need to get it right before it's released. We need to make sure that we do it once and we do it once well, as opposed to we do it 3 times badly, because there's nothing more, because this is all about building confidence in whatever we deliver and whatever is produced. So if we produce something half-cocked, couldn't think of anything better, but I'm not dismissing the research that you guys are doing. But it is very much important. I'd rather see it postponed for another 6 months to get it right in the first place. So I think it's taking the right attitude that, a lot of us have been waiting for this, but let's wait that little bit longer, because otherwise we'll rue the day for the next 10 years, picking up the mistakes.
Yeah, Mike, I know you and I had some interesting conversations at the Southwest event, and I know you're keen to see, this happen, but in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't really got a lot more to add to what Sean's just said, but I think it's been really exciting looking at these other technologies, and we've looked at a couple actually, and I think for even we're still looking at some defects behind the scanner that might still work for us, but I think you're right that really it's not just about collecting data to report a condition indicator. It's got to be about an asset approach, and off the back of that reporting a figure. But really welcome it, and I think it's right to just make sure we've given it enough time to get it right.
Wayne, I know you were telling me about some of the work you've been doing in Doncaster, and how's this feeling for you?
The positives for me out of this, as one of the engineers that took part in the PAS, then it's that consistency is good to hear. Talking to various companies around, equally it's good to hear. You've got that confidence that people are going to get this right, and so the other real positive is then that DFT and TRL are taking the time to pull that together, and I'm sure it will work.
And I think Alex, local authorities are very honest in their sort of response, and I've been getting a lot of feedback on how it's been really welcomed that you're taking time to sort of look at that sort of comparability point, because I think that is important, whatever system you are using, really. Do we have any questions for the panel? I hope, certainly from my perspective, if there's anyone thinking that, again, what we were really keen to do is, whether you're watching this sort of video online after the event or sort of here today, that DFT and TRL are taking time to think about this. You've heard a number of different local authorities who are using different forms of technology, and the idea is absolutely that people don't have to ditch what they're currently using just to fit in a little sort of straitjacket. So we really must reassure you that this process is one that might feel like it's taking a long time, might feel a bit sort of, some people just want it to happen. It's absolutely right, but do not feel that any technology you're using, certainly from the suppliers that Alex and DFT have been working with, is not going to be part of the new PAS, because I have had some concerns about that. That's absolutely not the case, is it, Alex?
Okay, no, except that DFT do want to achieve consistency. Yeah. So if it turns out that you're using supplier X and that supplier there's just no way we can get a consistent national reporting from supplier X, then it wouldn't be appropriate for supplier X to be a national reporting compliant supplier. So the answer to the question is yes and no, in that they have no intention of any supplier being prevented, but we're at early days yet in understanding the ability to achieve fleet consistency. And
that's the key point as well, isn't it? Even if there is an outlier that doesn't quite get to that sort of point, that doesn't mean to say that system is poor or bad. This is about a consistent standard, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And at the moment, we think there are reasons why we're seeing difference in consistency. I mean, I think there's probably some interpretation by some suppliers that their surveys are a really pothole-driven survey. So if you've got loads of potholes, it's category 5. Whereas actually, you don't reconstruct for potholes. You probably do local treatments. So that doesn't quite fit with the way we've done the category definition. So those suppliers are going to have to rethink about what they do with their defects that they've collected. So yes, we hope we'll get to the point that they will come into line. But if it turns out that there's something about the majority of suppliers that supplier X is just not able to do, that might give them a problem in the long term. But the door is never shut. They just need to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So did that give time for anyone to think about any questions? Do we have any questions? No. Well, thank you for the panel. That's been really helpful. Thank you, Alex, for taking those slightly unscripted questions. Thank you for that. Can we thank our panel? Oh, we've got a number of people leaving the room. It's always when it comes down to me, isn't it? But I just want to, Martin said to me last week that he thought I should close the conference. I think that's because he knew it was basically going to be me and my friends. So you're clearly all my friends, so thank you. We've had a fabulous 2 days. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all our sponsors, to all our host tables, to our wards representatives, to all our speakers. I hope you found all of the sessions that you've heard interesting and useful. I think for me, we're always wanting to do more. We're always interested in new topics, always interested in not just new topics, but topics that will help you do your jobs well. I think Martin has said at least 5 times over the last 2 days it's been a blast, and I think that's going to be the tagline for this conference. It's been an absolute blast, Martin. Thank you again for everything that you've done with LCRIG. You are absolutely a worthy winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award. And drive safely. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing you next year.